Welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Debate with Sam and Tate, brought to you by Fantasy Focused and the Original Hooters. I am Sam Holt, joined as always by my wonderful co-host, Derek Tate. Derek, how the hell are you on this wonderful Sunday?
Wonderful. I'll take it. Awesome. I'll take that too. Anything you want to throw my way, I'll take as a compliment. I'm just ready to talk about some wide receiver stuff. We're past the NFL opt-out period. We didn't really have any big news, so we can get to analyzing, can't we?
Yeah, you would think we could get to analyzing right now. I mean, I feel like I'm still I've got 1 foot into this season and I've got 1 foot out because I feel like there's so much news that's transpiring. I know that college football is having a big super secret meeting yesterday about whether or not they will be postponing having a season. You know, the people are talking. We're just waiting. And I believe we're supposed to hear some news on that decision by this coming Thursday. So,
I mean, don't speak it into existence.
Unless I know that Thursday there's going to be an announcement. I'm just saying, there's probably going to be an announcement.
Don't tease that you have a source or anything like that if you're not going to drop it here on the Fantasy Debate. Now it's going to drive me nuts.
I can't. All I can say is I believe we will be hearing some news about college football, whether or not it is pushed again, something's happening, a decision is made. I believe that they will be making some sort of choice. I don't believe they will be 100% canceling anything right now. I think that they're just going to set themselves up to maybe cancel later.
I'll say this. If I will go ahead and say this, that if one of the Power 5 conferences decides to postpone or just call off the fall season, I think that you're going to see the domino effects take place. One of the Power 5, the Big Ten in particular.
Sure. I mean, we know that UConn was the first school to say they're not doing college football this season. So I feel like there will be a trickle-down effect at some point, but it's a wait-and-see game, and football has all the time in the world to watch and wait and make decisions, and we will just have to be ready for whatever that is. And ready by that being, draft ready, making all of our choices, having our analytics down, getting ready with another wide receiver study.
So let's do it.
Let's freaking do this, guys. Guys, thanks for tuning in. If you have questions as we're going along, please go ahead and put them in our comments, and we will get through them as we can, throw them up on the screen. Love seeing you guys join us as always. We've got Alexander joining us. What up? We've got Will Jenkins, who is always by our side. Will, you're absolutely the best. Thanks for joining us today. Detroit Beastie saying what up. So good to see you too. And he's also saying, unfortunately, I believe Big Ten is next to cancel. That, I think, is the news that we're waiting to hear.
Don't speak it into existence. Don't speak it into existence.
It's going to be very difficult, but we'll just try and stay positive. We're going to stay with some fun stuff today, and we're just going to talk about wide receivers and our ADP study on them. Now, we have so many wide receivers to go through, so I do not believe we'll be getting through all of them today. I mean, I don't know if I know you've got 4 beers lined up. I've got 1 White Claw. There's only enough. So much I can do. I don't know how much we can buckle in and go 4 hours on wide receiver.
I mean, you can drink while you think. And for those that are tuning in live, go ahead and drink, think, and sound off in the comments. But there are a lot of wide receivers. I would say once we get to a certain point, maybe just say some late round guys that we really like, late in drafts, last round, flyers, sleepers, whatever you want to call them, ADP buys. But I'm excited to dig into wide receiver because it is a deep, 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 deep year.
Absolutely. And we'll be using Fantasy Football Calculator like we did last time, and we'll be pulling that up on the screen for you guys to see as well, so you can kind of follow along, and we'll just kind of jump right into it. And really, the top of our list is, I think, for both of us, would have to be Michael Thomas. When we're looking at overall wide receiver rankings, he's the clear-cut number 1 for a lot of us. And right here, we see him going at 106 in a lot of leagues, and I feel like that is pretty true to form. I've seen him maybe drop a little bit later, but he's taken pretty much there.
So it just really depends on how your league is set up. Obviously, in PPR formats, anybody that is a sure bet to catch over 100 passes for over 1,200 yards should be pretty much a shoo-in to be a first-round pick. Yeah. I just look at it like when you start looking at the ADPs for all these players, right? And I think that there is a tier drop-off at the running back position right when you get around the top 15 to 18 picks.
Sure.
Once you get past Aaron Jones, Nick Chubb, Miles Sanders, Josh Jacobs, I think that there's a significant teardrop. And if you're spending the 104, 5, 6 on Michael Thomas, then you're basically committing yourself to a team that is going to have someone like Todd Gurley, Leonard Fournette as your running back 1. And I don't know how you feel about that. That's
I don't feel good.
Well, I'm saying I don't have a lot of shares of Michael Thomas, except in dynasty formats. So that's, sure. I mean, will you be spending the 105, the 106? Like, where is the sweet spot for you to take Michael Thomas?
I mean, I'm not going to get him where I want to take him. And that's because of, like you just said, where running backs are lining up, and we're doing in the middle of a draft right now. And I went running back to begin with. And I'm very happy with that. I think that, to me, I mean, going running back heavy this year, is a shoe-in for some success right off the bat. Just like you said, the tier drops off so hard. And I feel like wide receiver is so deep. I have a lot of potential for other players at that position. I can't get myself to go Michael Thomas. I've done it in mock drafts. I've tested it, and I'm not 100% happy with my team at the end of doing those mock drafts. So I have not been doing wide receiver in round one, which means I am fading Michael Thomas, which doesn't sound nice to say. Michael Thomas, if you're listening, I do love you. I think you're amazing, but I just don't want you in the first round.
I think in the back half of the first, well, you're not
going to get him in the back half of the first in an average
probably draft. Not. That's why I have no shares of Michael Thomas in any single league that I'm in. So I don't want to spend anything earlier than the 108 on Michael Thomas. And if I'm playing we're playing in a 14-team listeners league right now, which shout out, Victor Jace is also in at the current moment, and he says, "Drink while you think." Love it. Yeah, I love it too. Clearly, cheers, everybody.
That say "drink while you think."
I mean, I also have other sayings like, you reach, I teach, ADP type of sayings that I got them in my back pocket. But
you've got so many sayings. You're like a gunslinger with sayings, and I love it.
I want to be the sportscaster version of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, but his old corporate champion version back in the Attitude Era of the WWE. I'm not going to start quoting The Rock, but the point being is when you're talking about Michael Thomas, again, if you take him within the first 4 or 5 picks, you just have no idea what the hell type of running back is going to come back to you in the back half of the second round. That's why anything after 108 in a 12 or 14 team league, that's where I'll pull the trigger on Michael Thomas, because I feel much safer taking him over the likes of a Derrick Henry or a Kenyon Drake, Josh Jacobs.
Sure.
I just think if you go running back at the back end of the first round, I just like how my team shapes out rather than having to hit the right side of a committee or something of that nature.
Absolutely. And I think that, going off of Michael Thomas and into these next wide receivers, because I think we're both pretty much saying the same thing, in that we want no part of the early wide receiver game. But I think it also depends on just position. So right there at the 106, you've got so many people in between you to try and scoop up what's left at the back half of that running back class. I feel like, to me, if I'm going to go wide receiver, I'm going to do it towards the end of that first round, beginning of the second. That way I can at least get one of those elite running backs on my team right off the bat.
Right. So, again, most leagues, I highly doubt that someone like Devante Adams is going to be available in the beginning of the second round. He seems to be a late first round talent as well, and for good reason. He missed a handful of games last year, but he's one of the few receivers in the league that averaged 10 targets per game when he played. So Adams is right there as far as a safe wide receiver to invest in, just not quite as highly priced as Michael Thomas. You have a better chance of getting him at the very end of the first, if not the early second. But in a lot of leagues, I'm just not going to have a share of these guys because I prefer to go running back. I just think it gets real interesting when you get to DeAndre Hopkins, Julio Jones, Tyreek Hill. That seems to be the next tier. So can you give me your thoughts? Tyreek Hill's actually averaging going right at the end of the first round. Same thing with Julio Jones, very beginning of the second round. And D-Hop, in a couple of mock drafts that we've done here on Fantasy Focus, has slipped out of the second round altogether in some super flex drafts and into the third round. So how do you have these guys ranked, and what are your thoughts? Are you going to have a lot of shares of these 3 players in the second round?
Well, for me, I'm very high on Hopkins. I believe I have him at 2 in my rankings. And so to get him at this spot after all the other receivers, to me, that's really great value. So I feel like he's going to have a really high ceiling this year. He's DeAndre Hopkins. He's been able to make a play out of anything. And you think that that's not going to be any different in Arizona. I think Kyler Murray's, fast, quick. He's going to get the ball to him any way he can. And he's just amazing after the catch. So I feel like Hopkins is great value here. He's got a high ceiling for potential, high floor as well. So he's just right up in that upper echelon, but you're getting him at a great value. So to me, I like the idea of getting Hopkins, in this area with like an Austin Eckler pairing in PPR, I think is kind of nice. But then also like, if I were to get him with like a Miles Sanders, I'm not upset about that. So I feel like as long as I can pair him with an elite running back in that 1-2 position, I'm good.
Is there anything that scares you about DeAndre Hopkins in particular? Look, he's on a new team now. I mean,
he's on a new team and obviously new situation, but he just is such an elite athlete, elite receiver in the game. I just don't see him showing up to class without having done his homework. He's a veteran. He knows how to perform. This is his job, obviously, yes, being in a new team, a new scheme, new situation, all of that, is going to take a little bit to do. But I feel like as someone that's a veteran and obviously someone that is so effective at his position, I just don't see him not being effective right off the bat.
All right. I mean, I'm going to have a little bit of at least reasons why I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit on D-Hop. We have a couple other folks joining us live. Greg Velez. What up, Sam? Tate, what up, my man? And then Smitty over at the Fantasy Football Show.
What up, Smitty?
What up, Smitty? By the way, I saw he called out the Fantasy Football counselor, challenged him to a boxing duel. That would actually be a pay-per-view. I mean, if I have him ranked, I want to see Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. first. But then right after that, it would be Smitty to lay the smackdown on the Fantasy Football calculator. I would actually pay to see that.
Sure.
But when it comes to D-Hop, right, I'm not saying the similarities are completely copy-paste or exactly parallel between Odell Beckham Jr. going to the Cleveland Browns last year. You have a quarterback that showed a lot of promise in Baker Mayfield his rookie season. You add Odell Beckham Jr. You think that things are just lining up. The stars are aligning perfectly for a huge breakout year for Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham Jr. And we saw that it still takes a little bit of time to get used to playing with each other, even though that didn't sound right. But you get the point. D-Hop is jumping into an offense that is air raid scheme heavy, obviously, but you still have Larry Fitzgerald there. You still have Christian Kirk there. You have Ken Drake, who is a nice pass-catching back out of the backfield. And for those of you that believe in Dan Arnold at the tight end spot, whatever, that's fine. But where I'm going with this is D-Hop, we haven't gotten a sample size of what he looks like in this Arizona offense. I'm high on the Cardinals offense still, even though Marcus Gilbert opted out, the right tackle, former Pittsburgh Steeler. I'm just pumping the brakes. I don't think I'm going to have a ton of shares of D-Hop in the second round. Maybe late second, I'm willing to throw a dart at him. But I'm just the shares without a proven floor, it doesn't make me super, super excited for the price tag you're trying to pay for him.
I mean, I get it, but
he's D-Hop.
He's DeAndre Hopkins. They bought an Aston Martin. You tell me they're not going to drive an Aston Martin? They're just going to leave it in the garage just to look shiny and new and clean? Like, no, they're going to use that thing and they're going to tear it up. So I feel like he's going to still have a lot of volume. And I feel like he's still going to be extremely effective. You're going to have crazy yards after catch just as usual. I know that it's a different situation, obviously different quarterback. I loved the Deshawn Watson combo that he had, and that was a fantastic stack that I believe a lot of people invested heavily on because you just love that volume and because obviously, he is what he is in that quarterback. But I feel like Kyler Murray, he showed something up last year, and I feel like he's going to continue that. And then to have an elite receiver in Hopkins, like just at his helm, just right there, I feel like I want it. I want some of that. Just give me it, and I want some. Just give me a little piece.
I completely. So it's again. I'm probably more so the minority when it comes to this type of opinion, contrarian to what most everybody else thinks, and that's fine. I mean, I love D-Hop. Had a little bit of a quote unquote down year last season, but he'll be just fine. He's going to see definitely his fair share of targets. Fitzgerald coming back, Christian Kirk. I'm just exercising a little bit of caution when it comes to it.
Sure, but Smitty brings up a good point here. Yeah. He says, I love Hopkins. Keep in mind, he was doubled all day long in Houston with that spread out in Arizona attack with all those weapons. And with Murray, such a problem. Hopkins could see less doubles. He could see less double coverage. I agree with that 100%. I just feel like, when you have that many weapons, you have that many more opportunities. And I feel like with the way that Murray was singing it last year, he's just going to increase his volume. I don't see it being, he's going to lose out on targets. I don't see that being a fight. I just feel like one player's going to continue to inflate the other. And I feel like this is an offense that can support that. And we've seen other offenses support multiple receivers as well. So I feel like it's going to be more kindle to that. Like, how the Rams have 1 million receivers and all of them have an equal amount of points and all of them are going about the same place in drafts. There's volume to go around.
There is volume to go around, and D-Hop is the best of the bunch. I mean, no offense to Larry Fitzgerald, one of the best to ever do it at the wide receiver spot.
Sure.
But, he's certainly towards the tail end of his career, and D-Hop will be the most targeted wide receiver on this group, bar none. Again, I think it takes a little bit of time to get used to playing with a new quarterback, new system, such and that. But when it comes to the player that scares me the most in PPR formats is Tyreek Hill. Because
really?
Yeah, and I understand that he had a game where he didn't finish because of injury, but he averaged like 7 targets per game. I mean, he's never been a guy that's going to catch 120 passes in a season. He's more explosive with those options. I mean, compared to like Devante Adams, who nickels and dimes you with like 10 to 12-yard receptions, and he can, of course, be vertical. And Tyreek Hill is the best deep threat in the NFL. He's just going to be one of those boomer bust guys that you're taking in the second round. I don't know. I don't like that type of volatility from a first or second round pick in most cases. So I would definitely give the nod to D-Hop over Tyreek Hill, even though it looks like, according to Fantasy Football Calculator, that Tyreek Hill is going about a half a round earlier than D-Hop.
I mean,
where do you have Tyreek Hill ranked?
I have Tyreek Hill at 4, and I've got Thomas, Hopkins, Adams, and Hill. And I mean, top 5 easy. I definitely feel like he's in the top 5 conversation throughout. But I just feel like the volume that you have with Mahomes, and I'm pretty sure that you are a fan of his. No,
I like Patty Mahomes. Yeah,
I'm a little bit, on that whole train. I feel like you are.
I am. I get it.
Who's going to catch the ball, Tate? Everyone's going to catch the ball because he's throwing it a million places all over the place, effectively behind his back, no look pass. He's got it to everyone. So I feel like I want any of his receivers. And if it's an elite one that runs faster than anyone, please, yes, I would. I am not fading Tyreek Hill in any sense of the word. If I can get him later, obviously the later you can wait on receiver this year more than ever, I want to wait. But if I can scoop up a little Tyreek Hill after getting 2 running backs, I'm super happy camper. I don't think it's happening. I'm just saying.
We're splitting hairs here a little bit.
We're splitting hairs on amazing receivers, but that's what we're going to do because this is a study and we got to get mad about it.
It's a fantasy debate with Sam and Tate. Sorry, a little shameless plug. But when it comes to Tyreek Hill versus someone like DeAndre Hopkins, I actually give Tyreek Hill the nod in standard format. So again, we're talking PPR where receptions matter. I mean, clearly. So a guy that I feel confident is going to catch a higher volume of passes, a higher volume of targets, including Julio Jones. I have Julio Jones ahead of Tyreek Hill. I have
Julio at 5. So, I mean, they're right there. Again, this is splitting hairs in that top tier. I feel like Michael Thomas is in his own tier on his own. And then you've got Hopkins, Adams, Hill, and Jones just right there in the mix for the next round.
I've actually got Thomas and Adams in that first tier by themselves.
Sure.
And then it drops to D-Hop, Julio, Tyreek Hill. And believe it or not, it's like Kenny Golladay and Chris Godwin as we can kind of begin to scroll down to the next tier of wide receivers. So at the 209 right now is Chris Godwin for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Kenny Golladay. I just like saying the word Tampa Bay Buccaneers because I'm excited. I actually think they have a chance to make the playoffs.
You're just excited because you have Tom Brady and it's completely changed your.
I got the helmet.
I get it. I know. You're super happy camper. I love seeing you happy, Tate. I do.
So, but I will say when it comes to my rankings, when it comes to wide receivers, Mike Evans is just out of my top 10. And right now, Mike Evans is averaging going at the 303. With Tom Brady taking care of the football exponentially more than Jameis Winston. Winston led the league in passing yardage, also obviously led the league in interceptions, but they were always playing from behind because Jameis Winston, with his turnovers, essentially spotted the opposing team somewhere between 7 to 14 points a game, it felt like. Yep. And is Tom Brady going to do that? Hell no. And if anything, Brady, his propensity to identify matchups pre-snap are going, and Chris Godwin, who moves all over the formation, whether it's outside or in the slot. Mike Evans is traditionally an outside vertical threat. I just think that it fits better for Chris Godwin, but I don't know that Tom Brady being under center is going to be a formula for two different Buccaneers receivers to be in the top 10 in PPR formats. Am I crazy?
I do not think you're crazy. And I think that the testament to that is the fact that obviously the Patriots last year, after Julian Edelman, it was a mixed bag of who you were going to get that was going to be the receiver that won out that week. So I feel like with Tom's efficiency, I'm 110% saying Tom Brady's the best. He's just the best at what he does. Can't hold a candle to him. He's fantastic. But when you get that efficient, you don't have to have that volume of throws that someone like Winston has to have, because you are just a surgeon with a scalpel, just destroying a team with little microscopic ticks, just taking them out, like full-on Dextering a team just to death. And then it's just
not just Dexter.
I did. Tom Brady is basically just Dextering, destroying just like defenses, just left, right, and center. But because of that, I agree. I don't feel like I'm as high on someone like Evans because I just don't see the volume to maintain that floor for him that he had before. So to me, if I'm going to take a receiver from that offense, I'm going to take Godwin because I feel like you said, he's going to be more effective for him in that formula. I feel like it's going to be big plays, touchdowns on the field, maybe red zone effect for Mike Evans. I would rather have someone else at that point.
You have like 4 red zone threats there in Tampa Bay right now.
You have so many.
Gronkowski plays there.
Who's also just, another mouth to feed. And I'm sure that he's just very hungry. I feel like Gronk just eats footballs. Like, I don't feel like, he eats real food. I feel like he eats steaks and footballs. I feel like that's all he does all day.
You remember that old NFL Blitz commercial with Cordell Stewart eating like spikes of football out of a cereal bowl? That's because Gronk likes to spike the ball. Get it? Yeah, eating spikes, or nails. Anyway, point being.
Sure, I get it, follow.
Brady has essentially, I consider him more, you're using a weird Dexter parallel.
I'm just saying he's methodical. Why is it creepy? Is it every time I bring up serial killers, I make this whole podcast creepy? It's not my intention. It's just where my brain goes. I watch too much Criminal Minds. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm gonna go with Brady. If you're trying to use a surgical or type of analogy, I guess he's the master of the board game operation. Everything is premeditated. He knows how to surgically pick apart opposing teams.
Like Dexter.
All right, for a grown-up version, Dexter, I suppose. But the name. So Godwin's the only one I feel super, super, super confident that I know what his floor is going to be as far as weekly targets in this offense. Even though the system is a little bit different, being that Bruce Arians has more of a vertical passing scheme. The risk it, the risk it biscuit. I forget the exact way that he rhymed.
No risk it.
That's it. But the vertical passing concepts, it's still going to be where Brady is identifying where to go with the ball pre-snap. And I think a lot of that's going to have mismatches with Godwin in the slot, moving him all over the formation, similar to what they did last year. Just the pure passing numbers are going to drop a little bit across the board, which means I still expect Godwin to be the most targeted player, even though Evans was the most targeted receiver on a per-game basis last season. I think it's Godwin this year. I feel more confident in him. The guy that's a glaring omission, 2 glaring omissions from the top 10 here, because Odell right now averaging going to 308, Adam Thielen at 305. I like Galladay where he's going right now, beginning of the 3rd round. I'm totally cool with that. But why do people like to fade Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson? This pisses me off. Like, I get it. Allen Robinson has never played with a good quarterback. And yes, I'm throwing shade at Blake Bortles, Mitchell Trubisky, and even if Nick Foles gets under center this year, Foles as a career outside of when he played in Philadelphia has been pretty bad. So I'm not super excited for Chicago Bears fans, even though Foles is being, kind of.
Is Foles not better? Is Foles not better than Trubisky?
Can you definitively say that? I mean, yes, he's won a Super Bowl, so yes, I guess so. He's done more in this league than Mitchell Trubisky has. But
he's done more. He's done more effectively. Are we saying he's the most elite quarterback and the Bears should be more?
He got outplayed last year by Gardner Minshew.
Sure, yeah, I get it, but like he's better, so this is more of an it gets better type of thing than anything else. It gets better. It's gonna be better for Allen Robinson. I agree. I don't think that it makes sense people are fading these two players. I mean, maybe it makes sense in that, people like us can scoop them up later and have elite wide receiver ones for that kind of value that late in a draft. Hey, guys, keep fading them because we'll just scoop them up. Like, it's fine.
To me in particular, Odell Beckham Jr. scares the living bejesus out of me because if him and Jarvis Landry play, they just reset the tight end market with Austin Hooper. They've still got David Njoku. Kareem Hunt, by the way, caught plenty of passes out of the backfield last season.
He did. And that's someone I'm fading is Odell Beckham.
Yeah, and just to keep in mind too, they significantly improved their offensive line this past offseason. So and Kevin Stefanski's the new head coach. They are going to primarily be running the football and probably leaning on their very talented defense there in Cleveland. So Odell over the likes of Allen Robinson or definitely Cooper Kupp or Amari Cooper just doesn't make sense to me. Odell, he even came out and said like he didn't feel comfortable with the protocols. Like the dude had the option. By the way, he kind of threw shade at the NFL. Like, I don't know if I feel comfortable playing this season, but
sure, which I don't think any of them will feel
last time I checked, he's taking their money and playing this season. So Odell's kind of, shooting shade and then also getting paid by the NFL. So
shooting shade and getting paid. Oh my gosh. Who are you? You rhymesmith.
I did not mean to do that. That one was organic. That one was organic by mistake. So
that was organic.
But when it comes to Cooper Kupp, I mean, what is there not to like about Cooper Kupp in this Rams offense? They no longer have Brandon Cooks. I mean, right there for pass attempts, as far as most by a quarterback last season, was Jared Goff. And you kind of saw them change their approach down the back half of the season, where not only Cooper Kupp, but also Bob Woods was heavily involved. So I just don't the logic behind moving Odell Beckham Jr. ahead of someone like Cooper Kupp and Allen Robinson and Amari Cooper, just it angers me.
I mean, it angers me too. I feel like, I was just saying, high-powered offenses that are going to have multiple receivers that you could just slot in, and either one of them could end up being your wide receiver one for the week. I mean, it's Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods back and forth. And I feel like though Robert Woods has, was used a little bit in the running game last year and probably targeted just a little bit more, I feel like Cooper Kupp is completely getting faded and throwing shade that I do not appreciate. Cooper Kupp had over 1,000 yards, 1,161 yards to be exact, and he had 10 touchdowns in the receiving game to Robert Woods 2. So I don't feel like there maybe will be that huge a split in touchdowns. I think that Robert Woods' touchdowns are going to go up a tad, and I don't think that you're going to lose out that many for Cooper Kupp, but God, you got to love that volume. They had equal amount of receptions as well, nearly equal. Kupp had 94 and Woods had 90. So I feel like I want that volume on my team. And if I'm waiting on wide receiver and Cooper Kupp is the first receiver I take off the board, I'm a happy camper. I just secured myself high numbers at that position week to week. That's consistency. And I think that when you're getting your first receiver off the board and you're going to wait on that position, you want that consistency week to week. You have to line it up, as your opponent goes. Obviously, everyone drafts different. I want to shore up my running backs just because of the drop-off. I would rather wait and get someone like Cooper Kupp as my first receiver because I know exactly what that number is going to look like week to week. It's consistent.
Fair enough. So when we're, as we continue here on the fantasy debate with Sam and Tate, we've got others kind of joining in the conversation. Smitty coming in saying A.J. Brown will finish in the top 5 to 6. That is uber aggressive. I get that.
Aggressive.
Super aggressive.
Super aggressive. When I don't feel like they're a big passing team.
I mean, on a per game basis last year, I believe A.J. Brown, if I've got it written down correctly, averaged 5 targets per game? I mean,
he finished the season with 84. He had over 1,000 yards. He had 8 touchdowns. These are all numbers you like. You definitely like these numbers. I'm just saying that, at the position where I can get them, I really like Cooper Kupp. I'm not saying I hate A.J. Brown by any means. And does A.J. Brown have the potential to finish higher in the rankings? 100%. Everyone has potential to finish wherever they're going to finish. But I just feel like we already know the amount of volume that the Rams have with their offense, exactly how much they throw. So we know what that is. I don't know what that is for the Titans. I just don't. I feel like they're going to be a run first out the gate. It's not going to be that high of volume for passes when you know you have Derrick Henry, a human fridge, just absolutely just bowling over defenses. And they're going to do that as much as they can. I would rather have a team that I think is going to maybe throw that round than run it.
Well, I will say that the one thing that A.J. Brown has going for him is that I think that he is very close to teetering on like an elite level talent. Like I loved him coming out of Ole Miss. I think that he's somebody that can get open on all three levels of the football field. He is a plus level yards after the catch dynamo. I mean, just get the ball in his hands. And I know people like to shit on the fact that Ryan Tannehill didn't really throw the ball all that much in the playoff wins that the Tennessee Titans had to start the AFC postseason last year when they beat the Patriots and the Ravens. They literally rode Derrick Henry to the AFC Championship game.
You can't. This is a fridge, and you can ride a fridge.
But Tannehill, I will say, I mean, we got to give Tannehill a little bit of credit here, though. I mean, Tannehill was phenomenal once he took the starting position from Marcus Mariota, and he was the reason they got to the postseason. I mean, Derrick Henry did a huge portion of it, but I mean, without that extra jump from Ryan Tannehill in the passing game, we don't see the Titans make a postseason push. So
no, and I don't think you see that push without A.J. Brown and as effective as he was. So I think, you obviously have all these parts of the puzzle that fit together so well last season, but I'm just wondering if we've already hit the ceiling with A.J. Brown and that potential.
See, another thing that comes into play is that Corey Davis was also put on PUP. So, I mean, Corey Davis was, a former top 10 pick for the Tennessee Titans. They declined his fifth-year option, and now Corey Davis it feels like he's on the PUP list with a phantom injury, which sucks because I really, really, truly believe Corey Davis can ball if put in the right position. But for whatever reason, he's fallen out of favor there in Tennessee, and A.J. Brown is the guy. So the running game should help open things up for A.J. Brown on all three levels. It's just, do we feel confident what his target volume is going to be on a week-to-week basis? He is going to be a very, very, very big boomer bust player, in my opinion. So it's nothing wrong. If you're a believer in him, throw your dart, shoot your shot there, Smitty. But I'm just particular. Shoot your shot. Shoot your shot.
I feel like I'm hearing the phrase shoot your shot a lot these days. I don't know why. Maybe it's because we're all in quarantine. So technically we're all just shooting our shot on the internet everywhere we can because we can't leave the house. But I feel like I'm hearing that phrase a lot. I don't know why.
Shooting our shot all over the internet. That's got to be a quote from Sam. You got to put that as like
shooting shots all over the internet. Just shots fired.
But as far as these other receivers here, in the third, like the mid-third, back end of the third round, fourth round, Juju Smith Schuster.
Yes, can I please?
We can go ahead.
Just a little bit. I mean, not to completely go ridiculous off the rails on Juju Smith, because I'm not biased at all based on my personal fandom of teams that I like. I'm not biased at all. I'm a very humble person. I will take other people's thoughts in consideration. I will not only love just the team that is mine. I will not only do that. But just saying, I'm really high on Juju Smith this year. Obviously, we have a healthy Ben. Juju's healthy as well. We have Deontay Johnson. And I feel like we are primed for some amazing fantasy points out of the Steelers this year. Now, the Steelers have always also been most effective when they have two receivers in the game. So I am not worried about Johnson eating into any of Smith's targets, because when Juju was most effective was when he was up opposite Antonio Brown, when he wasn't crazy. So, I mean, I feel like we're going to see a lot of good things out of Juju Smith. So in that year when he had his, comeuppance next to Antonio Brown, 2018, he was 8th in PPR total points. He was 5th in yards with 1,426. He had such a high floor with a healthy Ben. So all of this is hinged on a healthy Ben. I get that. That is a lot. And obviously we've all been.
Is it though? Is it okay? So you believe it is, and let me play devil's advocate and put
How
flip
dare
the
you? Don't
coin to
get
the
me
other side.
mad. Don't get me mad.
I'm sorry. I'm coming at Juju Smith-Schuster here a little bit. I'm not saying he's not worth drafting. Of course he is. I mean, and I love him as a human being. I think he's
hilarious on his Instagram. If you guys aren't
agree.
following him, you guys have to follow him.
By the way, when his first touchdown in the NFL, he hit us with the Kamehameha, or the Hadouken, whichever you want to believe that he was throwing at there.
Sure.
But for that, he holds a special place in my heart.
I know, because you're a nerd a little bit.
But the problem is with Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm glad that Ben Roethlisberger is back. Hopefully he is healthy. I will say this, though. I think that Juju Smith-Schuster showed some problems handling the opposing team's best corner, opposing team's attention to him in the passing attack. That's the one thing that he probably significantly benefited from Antonio Brown being in town, was that AB is going to get – you're basically having to double AB to make sure that he doesn't torch you.
Sure.
So
but
Juju
anyway.
Smith-Schuster, who is probably the ideal number 2 in the National Football League. He's fantastic against opposing zone coverages. He understands how to play and leverage against specific zone coverages, whatever concepts they're running in that offense. Juju Smith-Schuster is a student of the game and understands that portion of it. But his winning ability against man coverage kind of concerns me when really I like Deontay Johnson, but is Deontay Johnson or Juju Smith-Schuster going to get the number 1 corner on opposing teams on a week-to-week basis? I think the answer is Juju Smith-Schuster.
I think it is. But going back to following him on Instagram, if you follow his workouts at all, I feel like this is something that he is going to work past, because dude is working. He is putting in the work. And he is absolutely, it's stereotypical to say, but student of the game. He's someone that is going to continue to improve year after year. And I feel like that's something that he can work past. So I feel like he is completely set up for success this year. And when you've got that many weapons that are opening up, and as, Deontay takes, different coverage as well, and, it gets split up across the board, it's going to open up holes, and Juju's going to find those, and he's going to have success. It's an amazing year for Steelers football. Steelers football.
Look, Ben Roethlisberger being back, and if he's healthy, this offense immediately becomes a great buy across the board for fantasy purposes. So I hear you there. So we're talking about Allen Robinson going right in the same spot for Juju Smith-Schuster right at the end of the 3rd round. DJ Moore, I've seen a lot of folks out there that are just pro DJ Moore, and it's very understandable. I mean, not only is he a beast after the catch, but he breaks people off running routes. Mm-hmm. Do we know new offensive system, Matt Rule in town, Joe Brady as the offensive coordinator. We see Teddy Bridgewater under center. They also added Robbie Anderson. I still think that DJ Moore is the top dog in that wide receiver group. He'll see the most targets, but Curtis Samuel is no scrub. Robbie Anderson is certainly not a scrub. Does it muddy the waters a little bit too much to take DJ Moore there with a new quarterback and new system?
I think that, to me, that muddies the waters too much for me. We might be in complete agreement here on this, but when you're looking at who to take at this position, you're going back and forth between these players. These are the things to consider when you're on the clock and you're going back and forth. And, but Juju was hurt last year and Ben was hurt. But we know what they are when they're not hurt. We don't know what DJ Moore is in this offense with Teddy Bridgewater under center. We don't know. We know what he did last year, but that was with something else. So I think that because we don't know that, that's something that puts a little bit of more of the red flag for me on that position. And I'm fading DJ Moore in a lot of leagues. I know. Hey, I want to be proven wrong. I want him to show up and show out and be amazing and be top 10, top 5 receiver. That'd be awesome. Be great to see Carolina finally, have that success outside of Christian McCaffrey. Not saying I don't want him to have success, because he's amazing and I love Christian McCaffrey. I'm taking him wherever I can. However, I just don't.
Which means 101.
That confidence. Yeah, he's 101, obviously.
You have to be lucky enough to have the 101 in order to get Christian McCaffrey on your team this year.
Yeah, I had the 102 in our league that we're drafting in right now, and I took Saquon. But if he had fallen to me, I would have taken it. I would have happily scooped him up, cradled him onto my team. So
do we think that Teddy Bridgewater is an upgrade from Kyle Allen, though? I think
that Teddy Bridgewater is an upgrade from Kyle. I do. I think that he's an upgrade. But again, this is all a new offensive scheme system. I feel like I have so much confidence in Bridgewater. I think he's going to be fantastic. But it's just when you're debating this position and who to take, I would rather go with the known than the unknown on my team right now. I would rather be proven wrong and miss out on him this year and get him next year. This is talking redraft, obviously, only.
See, this is where I have Bob Woods ahead of DJ Moore. And it's not because I think that Bob Woods is a better football player than DJ Moore. I think DJ Moore actually has an incredibly high ceiling in the National Football League, and I think he has a talent to legit be a number one receiver in this league. He is. Yeah. But the system scares me a little bit. The fact that Teddy Bridgewater, Teddy looked good in 5 games with the Saints. Like, yeah, he did.
He was fine. He looked like good, but he didn't look like. He wasn't bringing anything that made it like, oh my gosh, he's at this new level. And obviously, we're kind of skewed. Do you think that the
Saints would have kept him if they thought that he could have been the quarterback of the future?
Yeah, because Breeze isn't getting younger, right?
Right. That's what I'm saying. They had him in the door. They had him there.
Yeah.
And they had their point being. So I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb because I see Calvin Ridley also at 405 right here. He's right there with Amari Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, A.J. Brown. And if you take a look at when Calvin Ridley last season got a sample size with Austin Hooper injured and Mohamed Sanu with the New England Patriots via trade.
Yeah.
Ridley tore it up.
He did.
And this offense twice in the last 2 seasons have been a top 5 passing attempt offense with Matt Ryan under center. And I feel confident that Matt Ryan is going to continue to perform on a top 10 level.
Yeah.
I think that the offense is going to continue to be very productive. They added Todd Gurley. I think that's an upgrade on Devonta Freeman at this point in their respective careers.
Yeah.
Offensive line hopefully gets a little bit better, but Hayden Hurst is not going to see the same type of target volume that Austin Hooper did. I think that's a significant downgrade. They really didn't bring in a slot dynamo, which means I think you're going to see Calvin Ridley moved all over the field in creative ways to get him the football in his hands. And not to mention, I know Julio Jones is a bona fide first ballot Hall of Famer, but he is getting up there in age. So
sure. Which just makes, to me, it just worries me. Like, I'm 32. Like, I'm basically dead, right?
I'm 33 and about to turn 34 later this month. I feel like I've hit my prime and my hairline's going to continue to go backwards. And really,
my peak was 26.
I'm fighting a 2-front war. Like, it's starting to go thin in the middle, develop an island, and it's going up on the side. So, unfortunately, they're going to meet in the middle eventually.
Yeah, that's not a good combo.
You know what? Thanks. I'll go ahead and just make sure I'm just pure audio from this point on. Thank you, Sam.
You can wear a hat. Guys can wear a hat at least. Like, I can't do anything about my face except put injections in it.
Whoa. Stop with that. Anyway, so but what are your thoughts on Calvin Ridley? Who do you like? I'm not saying you have to put, where do you have him in your rankings? Do you have him as a breakout guy, or do you have him as I just don't like it?
I don't have him as a breakout, but I don't not like him. I like the amount of volume I can get from him at the position where you're getting him. I think if I'm looking at the position compared to others where they're going right here, guys, I love Cooper Kupp. I love Calvin Ridley. I love Robert Woods. I love all of them. I know I can't get all of them right there. So if whichever one falls to me, I'm going to take first in that order. So I would definitely take Cooper Kupp. I'm taking Cooper Kupp ahead of Robert Woods. I see a lot of times people are drafting Woods ahead of Kupp. I get the reason why. However, I just feel like you're missing out on that sure thing that you get with Cooper Kupp. But then obviously if I miss out on Kupp, I'm very, very content with taking Ridley there. You scrolled up and now I can't see it.
I know. Well, I'm sorry. Do you want me to scroll back down?
No, it's okay. I have it on my screen too.
Okay, gotcha. So let's go ahead and catch up on some of the comments. We got, Gmo the Icon. Gmo? What Tampa Bay? I know we're talking receivers here real quick, though, off the top of your head. Which Tampa Bay running back are you going with at their current ADP? I'm still going Rojo. You're still getting a day one starter that's probably going to see the predominant amount of snaps, touches, etc. To start the season there in Tampa Bay.
But in dynasty formats, I'm getting Keyshawn Vaughn where I can.
Ooh, okay.
I just love that. I feel like he's an amazing talent. I feel like if someone's going to unlock that rookie running back, it's going to be Tom Brady. So I've stashed him in a dynasty league, and I'm just hoping that it's going to be something precious. But yeah, if I can redraft Rojo as a late round flyer, I think is a great option because we know that Tom Brady knows how to use his running backs effectively across the board. So I feel like that's not a position that's going to get ignored in Tampa Bay. We just got to be ready and waiting with the right player. So, I mean, redraft, obviously Rojo sooner and then Vaughn as a later draft flyer, but I do love Vaughn in Dynasty for sure.
So Tyler coming in with McTater over here with the rhymes. Shooter, shoot. Trust me, I am not. I mean, if you want to see somebody try to freestyle on the mic, live stream, that's Buckey all day. Buckey can do that. It's one of his many, many, many talents. Dried Ocean waving, saying hello, what up? P. Morley, hello, I'm 40. I mean, you remember like, did you ever used to go on AOL back in the day, AOL Instant Messenger, and go in like chat rooms, and it would always be kind of like these age, sex, location, like ASL type things? Yeah,
which now looking back, I'm like, dear Lord, those were just full of predators. Like, how am I not in a van somewhere still? Like, God, like, I mean, I totally remember doing that and then being like with my friend, haha, let's pretend we're 18. Like, that's a terrible idea. Like, that was horrible. Like, I'm so lucky that
we really didn't know back then.
We didn't know.
We really did not know.
We know better now.
Yes. And, as a future father to be here pretty shortly in November, I'm gonna go ahead and say that was just the infancy of the internet. Now we know better. Let's just keep everything.
Now we know better.
So,
if and when I have kids, they're never getting phones or leaving the house.
Oh yeah, I just I'm scared. I'm scared to be a father to be with for many different reasons. But let's continue here as we continue our deep dive into the ADP study for the wide receiver position heading into the 2020 NFL season. Again, if this is your first time coming across the YouTube channel for Fantasy Focus, hit the subscribe button. We really appreciate any and all the support. Sound off in the comments too. Let us know as we're breaking into the 5th round ADP who your breakout receiver options are as we're kind of going deeper and deeper into the draft ADP lineup. So now we're heading into the end of the 4th, 5th round, middle rounds. This is where if you go running back early, this is where you got to find your wide receiver 2 or your wide receiver 1 if you decide to go heavy with everything else. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are both coming off the board with this group. Metcalf at the end of the 4th, Lockett right in the middle of the 5th round, DJ Chark there in Jacksonville, Keenan Allen, who the hell knows what's going to be under center this year for the Los Angeles Chargers, whether it be Justin Herbert or Tyrod Taylor, and then Terry McLaurin and T.Y. Hilton. So that's the group that we have here. Of this bunch, if you're selecting a receiver in the 5th round, who do you like of this bunch? Why? Is there anybody that you're avoiding? The floor is yours.
Well, if DK Metcalf happens to fall this round, I'm taking him 110%. If he does not, then I would definitely take Tyler Lockett just because I feel like I love his volume there. We know what Russell Wilson is, and we don't see that changing anytime soon. But I love this chunk and this tier, this 5th round of receivers. There is so much potential for each of them. I cannot really pick one that I hate in this group. I mean, I even like Sutton at the end of the 5th there at the 5'11" position. This is why I love waiting at this position as late as you're getting. You're still getting number 1 receivers in the 5th round. Keenan Allen is a wide receiver 1. Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, split the difference. I mean, one of them is going to be a wide receiver 1, probably Lockett. Terry McLaurin, wide receiver 1 for their team. I feel like you're getting a lot of great potential from these players in the 5th round. Just a testament to how late you can wait and still get someone awesome. I mean, it's hard for me to pick. It's like picking a favorite, side of the candy bar to eat on all of these receivers. Like, I seriously love all of them.
So I want to try to
hate
I want to try to hold on. I just want to try to sort through these, right? Because when you're taking a look at what their weekly floors are, sure, as far as target volume goes, I know things can change, and certainly receivers become more involved and explode onto the scene. I thought that DK Metcalf looked fantastic last year when they opened up his like when Josh Gordon was let go. That basically was the green light to let's just unleash DK Metcalf on opposing defenses, and we saw what he could do. Yeah, him and his abs absolutely destroyed other teams. Look, and it's hard not to fall in love with just the physical specimen that man is. Like him and I clearly live a similar lifestyle. I mean, we're people of our physical build, just we just have these we can't help it. We just can't help it. By the way, I'm being completely sarcastic. I'm not DK Metcalf with my shirt.
You got me to snort laugh. My God.
Well, I mean, I feel like you were laughing uncomfortably because you didn't know if I was being serious or not.
No, it hurt so bad. My face is killing.
Let's just put it this way. There's of the two hosts on this podcast, one of us has competed in a fitness competition and it wasn't me. So,
one of us has abs right now and one of us doesn't.
Oh, I have. Well, that's not true. I have abs. Don't go there.
Buried. They're just buried.
They're not buried. That's I'm not proving it on a live stream either right now. Now look, now I'm sweating. Now I'm starting to get now I'm upset. Now you're telling me I don't have abs. Now you've crossed the line. But no, in all seriousness, when it comes to DK Metcalf, I love his upside. It's just who's the safer player. I think
that Lockett might be safer between the two.
Lockett.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it really depends on how you build out your team through the first 4 rounds.
Yeah.
Because if you take a bunch of high floor guys through the first 3 of your first 4 picks, and you got Lockett or Metcalf, take the upside pick with Metcalf. If you've tried to hit a bunch of home runs in the first 4 rounds, then take Tyler Lockett. So you have it just really depends on your balance that you have through the first 4 rounds.
Absolutely.
Keenan Allen, though, and DJ Chark, I like both the players. But do you trust Gardner Minshew? Do you trust Tyrod Taylor? Do you trust Justin Herbert?
It's tough to trust the quarterback situation for both of them. But at the core, what they both are wide receiver ones for their team. So if they're playing from behind, they're going to have to be effective at their position, which we have seen them both be very effective. So I feel like, again, depends on the way you've structured your team, but I don't think you should be upset if you end up with any of them. So if Metcalf is gone and Lockett is gone, I mean, between the two, I guess I would rather have Keenan Allen because I just don't. I mean, I guess I trust the mixed bag more with the Chargers than with Jackson.
Well, I trust that Keenan Allen's a better football player than
Keenan Allen's a better football player
at this point.
He's got a chip on his shoulder because he's around Twitter just being like, "You guys." He's got a bad ranking on Madden, and he's all pit.
I don't think it was Madden. It was actually the NFL Top 100.
Oh, it was the Top 100 one? I couldn't remember.
Yeah, he tagged the wrong Chris Godwin. He tagged a Chris Goodwin. He tagged a Chris Goodwin, threw shade at Mike Evans, which Mike Evans clapped back. But look, I mean, Keenan Allen, I think, is the better player, the more polished wide receiver at this point. I mean, anybody that's going to try to debate me on that, that's fine, but I disagree. Yeah. But it's just more so, actually, to be honest with you, I probably trust Gardner Minshew more than I trust the combination of Tyrod Taylor and
we know what the mustache brings to the table.
Oh God. I mean, he made some joke about the coronavirus because I think he was put on the COVID list and he's like, yeah, the coronavirus took one look at me and said, no, thanks. Which I thought was a great quote, but when it comes to these other players, I mean, I want to continue into the next round. I know that we can talk about Terry McLaurin if you want to as well, Cortland Sutton, then you got Stephon Diggs, who, if this dude is he was, let's put this in perspective. He was the number 2 there, I think, to Adam Thielen in Minnesota and was still being taken in the 4th and 5th round of fantasy drafts. Yeah. He's now the number 1 with a quarterback that has the strongest arm right there with Patrick Mahomes in the entire National Football League, is an ascending talent there in Buffalo, and yet he's averaging going in the 6th round. It's like his ADP dropped, even though he is now the clear number 1 wide receiver with the Buffalo Bills. I mean, the logic doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, what are your thoughts on Stephon Diggs?
I mean, I love the move. I think that it's good that Josh Allen got a more competent receiver there. I mean, I feel like, not to say that John Brown didn't do amazing because those that had him were benefiting from all the targets that he got. I feel like Diggs is going to be a big threat for them. But, I mean, we've talked about this before when we talked about the running backs. I mean, when they get in close, who's going to run in the ball or who's going to be their red zone threat? It's going to be Josh Allen.
Correct. Yeah. I
think that's probably the main reason why he's dropping for a lot of people. I do still think he's going to be effective, and I do still think he's going to be a threat, though. So I feel like you're getting really good value for him this late. He's not someone I'm fading by any means. If he falls to me, in 6th round, 110%, I'd take him.
So when we start talking about other players, I mean, and I do want to touch on Cortland Sutton, though.
Sure.
Because Isn't Drew Lock kind of like a popular breakout pick?
He is.
So when it comes to Cortland Sutton, and you look at the fact that he was averaging damn near 8 targets a game, do you see his numbers being negatively impacted by the fact that this offseason they've added Melvin Gordon, they've added Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, and you expect that Noah Fant's probably going to be a little bit better in his sophomore season at the tight end spot, and we still really don't know what the hell to expect from Drew Lock. So do we?
I think that I feel like we don't know the firepower behind the weapon of Drew Lock. It's a supply and demand, can the supply, can the demand of all these amazing receiving threats be met with a supply of this volume from Drew Lock? I don't know that is something we can get. I mean, for that reason, I don't want to say I'm out on Cortland Sutton, but I'm not targeting him just because I'm a little bit hesitant there. I mean, I love that Will Jenkins throwing up Sutton versus Diggs. I mean, to me, then I would rather have Diggs because I feel like the competition's a little bit better. Is that crazy?
Well, I think that there's fewer options to compete with for targets for Stephon Diggs. And no disrespect to Sutton. I mean, they have very different games. I mean, Sutton's just like this, big bodied receiver that can win 50-50 balls, but I think he's way more than just that too, by the way. But, Diggs can get open at will, one of the best route runners in the National Football League. Allen, I worry a little bit about his consistency when it comes to accuracy. It's not like you can just throw it in Stephon Diggs, zip code and he just is able to come up with it. Like Diggs is kind of a smaller bodied receiver that relies on his route running to get open, but and his speed and explosiveness. But Allen, I like Diggs more than Sutton to put it that way. Fewer options to compete with. When it comes to these other options, though, look, AJ Green and Tyler Boyd. I want to talk about these two players. And Green right now is averaging the 603. And Tyler Boyd, by the way, disrespect at 801.
This is the other reason why I think that we're going to end up having to do 2 wide receiver segments for this ADP study because we are literally in just getting to the very beginning of the 6th round, and it's already been an hour. I mean, that's because there's so much depth at the position. And I know that you just got Tyler Boyd in our draft, and I'm super excited for you getting him where you did. I just think that he has a really high floor with that offense. I mean, obviously, the Bengals are still rebuilding, and they're going to continue to rebuild. We don't know 110% what they're going to be, but there's a lot of upside there. We know that Joe Burrow throws the ball a lot, right?
So I'll ask you this. Who would you feel more confident being under center, pulling the trigger for Tyler Boyd and AJ Green for this year? Andy Dalton or Joe Burrow? Joe Burrow. Think that and you look at the player in that LSU offense that I think Joe Burrow vibed with the most. It was the slot player of Justin Jefferson last season. And Tyler Boyd plays far more in the slot than AJ Green does. Now, granted, AJ Green, there's been reports coming out of Cincinnati that he looks great. He looks explosive. He looks healthy. Sure. And if there's a healthy AJ Green, then he is 100% worth a 6th round pick. So it's not disparaging AJ Green.
No.
It's just Tyler Boyd has finished 2 consecutive years as a top 20 PPR wide receiver. And he is going in the 8th round with an improvement at quarterback? What? What in the sand hell is wrong with a lot of you people?
Yeah.
And by you people, I mean, I love you all, and I'm not talking shit about anybody. I just don't get the hate for Tyler Boyd. I just don't understand it.
No, I agree. I think that the hate has gone too far, but I think that maybe it's not hate. Maybe all of us know that we just want to get Tyler Boyd super late, and that's why we're not pumping him up so that he doesn't shoot up the draft board. Maybe we should stop talking about Tyler Boyd. So
he's not a sexy pick. He's not a sexy athlete. He's not somebody that has like oozes with upside with someone like DK Metcalf.
Sure.
You know, he is more
DK Metcalf, if you have to pick a player that oozes sexual, appeal, would definitely be high on the list.
Use the word sexual. I'm steering clear of the sexual word. But I mean, if you're crushing on DK Metcalf, that's
hard crushing, super crush.
Shoot your shot all over the internet, Sam. It's fine. Anyway.
Okay, now I get why that sounds weird.
Yep, exactly. Used it properly. But when it comes to, I mean, even Devante Parker, right? Devante Parker had a great finish to last year, but do you think that has anything to do with the fact that Preston Williams got hurt?
I think it does.
I mean, I really liked Preston Williams.
I think that, he's a great person to, jot on a Post-it note and have during your draft so you can grab Preston Williams, because I think a lot of people are forgetting about him. But I mean, and again, this just speaks to how deep the position is. I mean, we're talking late sixth round, Devante Parker, potential wide receiver 1 for a team that, has a lot of
Edelman.
And Edelman we haven't even gotten to yet. See, this is why we need another episode.
And the guy that led the league in touchdown passes last year, Lamar Jackson, his number 1 wide receiver, Marquise Hollywood Brown, in the 6th round. Yep. I mean, I want to ask you this real quick, because there was reports that, it makes it sound way more crazy than it really is. But technically, Marquise Hollywood Brown got down all the way to 157 pounds last year, which for a National Football League player just seems wild. I mean, that's like UFC, like middleweight type, weight. But
it's like me on like the Sunday after going out the whole weekend. Like, that's about what I weigh. That's like 3 meals at Chipotle and a pizza, and like going out 2 nights drinking.
What's your go-to Chipotle order?
Lately I've been doing the full steak burrito, but normally I do like a steak bowl with like heavy on the guac. See,
I mean, I go with the steak bowl myself, but with triple steak.
Ooh, you would do triple steak. As someone that avoids the vegetables, you would do triple steak.
Again, me and DK Metcalf. Again.
Do you have a bowl big enough for that order?
Look, me and DK Metcalf got to keep our bodies in a certain type of physique. So I mean, it's fine. That's how I do it, triple steak. But anyway, I can't even keep a straight face saying that. But when it comes to Devante Parker, Julian Edelman, Marquise Hollywood Brown gained 23 pounds in the offseason. So he's all the way up to 180 pounds.
Yeah.
He is a speed receiver.
Yeah.
I think that people are like, oh, well, he may lose a little bit of speed. Look, he came out of college weighing in the 170s. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that a lot of it had to do with the fact that, he couldn't really train properly because he had that Liz Frank injury from his days at Oklahoma.
Yep.
And he was really struggling with ankle injuries all throughout his rookie season. Do you believe that we're just scratching the surface with Marquise Hollywood Brown, and he's truly a guy that could frickin' explode this year?
I do, and that's because of the amount of faith I have in Lamar Jackson. Because every year we're getting to a new level with him, and I feel like we've got a whole nother level that we're about to get to, and I'm excited for it. And I feel like Hollywood Brown's going to be a huge beneficiary of that new level of Lamar Jackson. I think what we should do now is basically tease wide receiver 2 coming up next, because we're right at the end of the 6th, going into the 7th on this ADP study. Guys, I mean, thank you for tuning in and joining us on all this and all your questions and all your comparisons, because it helps us too. I mean, as we're going through these drafts, we go through these drafts. We're currently in one now, and I know you guys are too. We want to help you get to that, get that pick that's going to make you super confident in your team going into this season. So please go ahead and hit subscribe if you haven't already. And, get your draft questions up next for the next episode. We'll have our next wide receiver study next weekend, probably on Saturday. We both had a bit crazy Saturdays yesterday with some moving, and we were both a bit exhausted. So we will get back to you at our normal scheduled time for next Saturday. We should be able to pencil that in,
right? Yeah, I think we'll be all right.
We'll be all right. It's just that you helped. Tate was a wonderful guy and helped a friend move. So obviously you're exhausted after helping someone move. I had to move about 1,000 bricks because I'm doing a patio out back. So I'm destroyed from moving just bricks, which is exhausting. So we will be getting to part 2 of this wide receiver study next Saturday. So be sure to tune in for that. Derek, what should we wind this up on? What's a crazy thing we can take people into the rest of their Sunday? And maybe cheers to some more White Claws. I see Victor trying to get me to get more White Claws. I'll work on that, Victor.
Yeah, I mean, do you have anybody that delivers alcohol there in California now?
Yeah.
We have a couple places here in Cadillac, Michigan. They don't have an Uber, but they deliver alcohol to your door here in Cadillac.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. But I mean, you can definitely, we've got, there's one drinking one. I forgot what it's called. But yeah, I mean, all of them deliver. And now because all the restaurants want everyone to obviously pay a little bit more for every meal, you can get craft cocktails that are in little mason jars that are super, super strong because the intent is, well, since we didn't put ice in it, we're going to double the strength of this drink. And you make 2 drinks out of it. So if you don't make 2 drinks out of it, it's just one very strong drink, and you get all the benefit from it.
Fair, but I mean, I do remember that we, the fantasy football community over the past couple days, right? 48 hours or so.
This past 48 hours has been a bit nuts.
Just a bit nuts. So just to kind of, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Sam. To kind of recap and summarize the situation for those of you that are unaware. Over there at Fantasy Pros, they have a fantasy football podcast that features one of my favorite analysts and Mike Tags, and also Kyle Yates. I think they do a fantastic job. Tags actually has one of my favorite boomer busts and everything in between. That's one of my favorite, fantasy analysis pieces that I look forward to coming into every single fantasy football season. Yeah. Unfortunately, their third host, was recently fired. I believe it was on Friday, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
For sending some pretty inappropriate direct messages to multiple, not one, but multiple girls, saying, just to give you an idea of what he said exactly to one girl with the Twitter handle Tally. I knew you were going to make this difficult, but I always win. I always take what I want, and you are not going to change that. And then after that, he also, another girl came forward named Erica with another weird direct message that he sent her. Some creepy ass shit, like really, really, really weird. Fantasy Pros first indefinitely suspended him. He then issues a half-ass apology, which was half-ass, which pure point blank was half-ass. Yeah. And then I'd be willing to bet my life that he created a burner account later that day with the name John Smith and says,
which is so just a testament to poor creativity.
John Smith.
Really?
Really,
isn't
dude,
that just if you try and just make a random Twitter account, it just automatically makes it for you?
Yeah, that would be one of the first names if I could think of the most, generic name, other than maybe John Doe or some shit like that. Yes.
Yeah. That's pretty bad.
Yeah. So he creates what is probably I'm going to assume he created an account with 0 followers, 0 following him, and just says, shut up, bitch. All you want is attention. All you had to do was go to Fantasy Pros. Now you're posting 24/7 because all you want is everyone to pay attention to you. F off and move on. And this is all after he issued a half-ass apology, basically saying, I'm sorry you misinterpreted my attempt at flirting. This, to me, before I, throw it over to you to sound off, it makes me sick as somebody that is an older brother to 2 little sisters. And I don't care what type of whack-ass flirting you've tried to throw at random girls online. I feel uncomfortable even saying some of the shit that he said in the video because I don't talk to women like that, ever. And it just makes me feel uncomfortable. And this is probably shit that you've dealt with on some sort of scale, during your life. So it's sickening. I'm glad that Fantasy Pros finally fired his ass. Mm-hmm. I just want to get your thoughts, but I'm kind of disgusted by it, to be honest with you. And not to mention, he has a wife and kids.
Yeah. Well, I think for me as, and I'm going to try and be as, politically correct as I can, because I don't feel this is tough because I mean, as a woman, we deal with a lot of crazy shit, and that doesn't make any of it okay that we even have to deal with it. It's stuff that happens. I have many, unfortunately, I can say the word many. I have many close friends that have dealt with, sexual assault, rape, all of these different things. I have plenty of people in my life that are in that circle that have dealt with things from a level of just being sent a DM that was inappropriate to, having to go to court because something happened against them. So I understand from different levels, just the different ways I've had to be there for my friends for those things. And I've understood the levels of things that have happened to me as well, to make me feel. So I think for me, obviously I'm glad that they fired him. I wish it had happened much sooner than it did. I'm very grateful for the people that are standing up and the people that have said things, called him out, and obviously, been very forward with saying this isn't right. But I think what's most important to take away from this, besides obviously, everyone's got their pitchforks right now, and though we appreciate, and I feel like all women appreciate, when people are trying to get in our corners and speak for it's not okay. I think what's most important is to look at the way that we talk to each other in general. Like, I feel like the fantasy community, I would say 95%, and it's a very high percent, I can say, of my interactions with men across the board, from, being a guest on different shows, which I'm very grateful for every time I've been able to be a guest, but the interactions that I have with people on Twitter have all been majority positive, and I'm very grateful for that. But I think if people can take that moment to look internally and say, okay, well, I would never do that. Sure, I agree, and I 100% believe everyone's hearts are in the right place when they say I would never do something like that. But I think it's also, as a society, maybe we've gotten a bit lazy with the way that we talk to each other, where we just assume everyone knows that I'm joking. You assume that, oh yeah, they're being sarcastic, they're joking. Like, just take a moment and just think, if I'm sending something like this, if I have to think about it and wonder, is it okay to send? It's probably not okay to send. And taking that time to think, okay, I'm reaching out to so-and-so because I would like them to, be on my show, or I'm reaching out to them because I admire them for whatever reason. Think about how you would react if you were saying these things to someone in person, because we're behind a screen and we're all protected behind a screen. But if you wouldn't say something like that you're writing to someone in person and in their face, it's probably not something that you should send. It's probably not something that should be in your heart. And I think that means that if you're having that analysis on yourself, you need to take yourself to school and figure out what's going on in your mind that makes you think it's okay to actually write that. I think that's the biggest dynamic here, is a lot of these things happen behind a screen. And if it's not something you would say to me across a bar, you hear me talking about football, oh, that's like blah, blah, blah. I think that take on the Ravens is total bullshit. Cool. Like, that's fine. We're in a bar, you'd say that because we're talking sports in the bar. If you see me walk in the room and say, oh my God, smoke show, like, no, you wouldn't say that to me in person. Like, maybe you just take a minute and take a beat and think, would I say this in person? Probably not. Probably shouldn't say it then. So I think that what I love about what comes out of bad things, and I don't mean to like rant, but I will.
No, the floor is yours. You're doing a great job. Continue, preach.
I will wrap up, but I mean, what happens when these things happen is, I love the support. It's always appreciated. But I think what doesn't happen enough is the amount of time between when something happens and action to moving forward. I feel like there's not enough growth in that period, or time taken aback. I mean, I have to take time myself, and this has been a crazy year. A million things have happened. I feel like I've been working really hard on learning and listening and taking a minute to understand other people's points of view. And I think that this is going to be a year of learning. And I think every time, and unfortunately these things will continue to happen because we're not in a perfect world, but anytime these things happen, I think everyone just needs to look internally and think, okay, have I done anything like this? Have I done anything that could be perceived this way? Because you're not in the other person's shoes. And again, I'm very grateful for the interactions I've had on Twitter with other people. I mean, you and the guys at Fantasy Focus have always been amazing with me, always been amazing. And I'm very grateful, very, very grateful for that. But I have to think of all the women that have not had those experiences. And I just think, if the men that thought they were just telling a joke, the men that thought, oh, well, I'm paying her a compliment by saying these things, just took a minute to think, okay, well, how would I feel if someone else who's a friend, I'm not going to say wife, daughter, all these things, because we all come from women. So to say that you have that, like it's like an obvious, like, yes, we all have that. But if you're sitting next to a friend of yours and someone says that to her, how would you feel? And if that upsets you in any way, then clearly you were in the wrong. I think you have to think outside of your bubble. You have to think of the people near you. If you're sitting at a bus stop and someone says something to a woman and it offends you, and you realize it's something you've said, then you need to check yourself. And I just feel like we have to use this as a learning point. We cannot burn this guy at the stake and then move on. We have to take it, and we all have to learn from it in different ways.
Well, first off, very well said, and thank you for all the perspective and thoughts on that, because I think you're spot on with a lot of how you just eloquently described your thoughts. So you talk about 2020 being a year where we can learn from past interactions, past transgressions, stuff of that nature, and perhaps we're seeing a bit of that going on with like the Black Lives Matter movement. And when it comes to Derek Chauvin and the death of George Floyd and stuff of that nature, and I don't want to go too political, but I'm saying, if instead of like having a cancel culture moment and then it just going by the wayside,
yes,
to have some sort of change when it comes to interaction and sending direct messages or whatever it is, you definitely want to have this be an opportunity to go, whoa, like people to kind of check themselves before they send messages of this type of nature. I mean, it's funny enough is like our first interaction, we've never actually met in person. Like you and I have
I know, that's really funny. You and
I have actually never met in person. We've never had a handshake. We've never had a beer at the same table, nothing of that nature. I actually came across a article of yours and sent you a direct message on Twitter just saying like, hey, I really liked your article. Would love to get your feedback on my bottom 5%, article way back when. And it just, you see, you have to think with the way that Bobby sent and looked into the camera and said, I take what I want. Like that just is disgusting. Like as somebody that's about to have a kid, if it's a daughter and I have two little sisters, like it just makes me like sick of my stomach at turns. Like how creepy and ugh. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of a moment here because I don't want people talking like that to somebody I know or a family member, and it's for him to just that two girls, like another girl randomly came across this post about Bobby Sylvester and came forward and said, look at this, and took a screenshot and posted it as well. So that this is not like an isolated incident or two. Like this is probably shit that he has sent to probably like 20, 30 plus just random women that he's trying to like make a pass at. And it's wild. It's just wild. And like you said, it's an opportunity to learn and grow.
It is an opportunity to learn and grow. And again, to the whole cancel culture, Joe, I do appreciate someone, being checked for their actions. And obviously there need to be consequences to everyone's actions. And I want to see that happen. It's like cutting off the head of a hydra. It's just going to grow another head and it's just going to come back another way. So we can only cut these heads off of different things that pop up so often before, we're never going to slay the beast that way.
Right.
We have to learn. We have to get smarter. We have to learn past this moment, learn how and why these things happen, how and why we allow things to happen, how and why. I mean, I've done it before too, where I've been like on a date with someone says something and I'm like, oh, well, he's clearly joking. When later I look back and I'm like, holy shit, that was a really racist thing he said. And I just did not, because I'm very sheltered and I have, I have this horrible white privilege and I feel very guilty for all these things. And I'm working really hard at learning and just being better. But it's taking that moment. It's taking that time. Like, I can't just brush things off anymore. Like, I have to think about stuff before I'm going to, not only before I say it, before I let it even hit my heart, because I don't want things to land in the wrong place. And I think that all of us universally need to be doing that just so that we can continue to stay together and keep growing forward, because we're not going to be able to change if we don't listen and learn and act. Like if we don't do anything, we're not going to grow from this. We're not going to get better. So, I mean, I'm grateful to have a platform where, you know, if something happens, I can say something. And obviously, you know, I love being able to have my voice heard on that. I feel like I have, you know, the experiences of my friends that have obviously had plenty of horrible things happen to them. I rally to their side, and I want to be that for other people. But you know, the only thing I can say, and just, you know, as we go forward from this, and I love all the positivity going forward from it, you know, we just have to keep listening and learning. So anytime something comes up, you know, you can say, I'm sorry that happened to you, but you can also take the moment to look back on things that you've said and say, okay, how can I also make sure that this never happens in my world too? So that as my world grows, it's affecting other people's worlds and it never happens in theirs as well.
Well said. So, I mean, you asked me if I had anything to sign off with, and, you know, these are conversations that are good to have.
They are.
They're tough to talk about sometimes because it's not easy to talk about somebody that just says some off the wall shit like that. I mean, yeah. I'm just gonna generalize it as that, some off the wall shit like that. And you know, in particular, Tags posted a video because he's been hosting a podcast with this guy for 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, and you could tell it like affected him. Like, you know, you thought you knew somebody, and then some shit like this comes out, and it's like, whoa, it does make you take a step back and kind of look at things from a different perspective. So, I mean, we can all use a little bit of perspective and can continue to grow. You know, on a more lighthearted one.
I love Victor for so many reasons.
I was going to say, Victor Jace coming in.
His randoms definitely help. I mean, yes. Before we go to the top 3 favorite Will Ferrell movies, which I can 100% rattle off for you right here. Just thanks, guys, for listening. And if anything, the takeaway is just thank you for listening and hopefully learning and hopefully all going forward. So I appreciate that. And thanks again for tuning in on this. As we wrap this up with Victor J's final question of top 3 favorite Will Ferrell movies. This is interesting because for me, I think it's got to be Anchorman for me as my number 1. Anchorman's number 1. And then I think I got to go, this is tough. I think I got to go Step Brothers 2. And then I've got 3. My 3's a ringer because I love the quotes in it, and I'm not gonna feel bad about it. I think I gotta go Blades of Glory. It's kind of random, but
Blades of Glory.
I freaking love that movie. Wow. Dude, Chad Michaels is a legend.
I mean,
so good. He's so
all right.
good.
If Blades of Glory is your thing and your speed, that's fine.
Hey, it's my 3. It's my 3.
I get it. It's your 3.
I went dart throw at my 3, and I'm okay with that.
Shit. I mean, Night of the Roxbury is tough to leave off. Like,
sure.
Really tough. That's pre like his breakout. It feels like a very, very, very early movie in his career. Shit. I mean, I love Talladega Nights. I love Anchorman. Oh, and the Night of the Roxbury. In fact, that's got to be my 3. That's got to be my 3. In order, it's going to be Talladega Nights. I love it.
Talladega Nights is, it's fantastic.
I don't know how it's off your list. I Old School, like his performance in Old School.
I know all of them are really good. Okay, maybe I messed up my Talladega Nights.
Step Brothers. In fact, damn it. How can I leave Step Brother? I can't leave.
Okay, I'm gonna just blame that on White Claw. But Talladega Nights is hilarious. I love Ricky Bobby. It's my guy.
For me,
I was talking to someone about jorts the other day, just jean shorts. It's like, it's so underrated.
Step Brothers, Talladega Nights, and Anchorman. That's my 3. That has to be my 3.
No, those are fantastic. Those are so good. The Other Guys is also fantastic.
I didn't enjoy that.
You didn't like The Other Guys?
I said I didn't enjoy it quite as much.
Sure.
I didn't enjoy it quite as much.
But I also love his little spot on Wedding Crashers.
Oh God, Chaz. Yeah. No, but that's such a small scene. Like
scene stealer.
I mean, yes, it was great, but the meatloaf, yeah. Come on, Mom. I'm not going to throw the F-bomb out there, but yeah, I get it.
Yes. No, I love it. And then Victor's saying Step Brothers, Semi-Pro, and Anchorman. So he's throwing one random one in there too. Love it. Gotta love those. Tyler saying, don't love Will Ferrell. Tyler, how dare you? But I'm going to roll Anchorman, Old School, Walk Hard, and The Other Guys almost tops that one, though. Close 4. Love it. Mama Meatloaf. Yeah, so freaking good. There's so many good. All of those Will Ferrell movies are just so quotable. And I think that when
Lot
you're
of good
watching a Will Ferrell, you just want a quotable movie that you can just yell at each other, which is fantastic.
Which
Daddy's Home is also really good.
What was that? That was another one with Wahlberg, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas Wahlberg's the new Will Ferrell's the new stepdad, and
That's it.
Wahlberg is divorced from the wife, and you're just like
just getting out of prison or something like that.
Yeah, and he's like, that's
And then at the very end, like Wahlberg had come of age, and then John Cena's the new dad.
Yes, exactly. Prepping it for Daddy's Home too.
But by the way, have you ever seen Cockblockers or whatever? Like John Cena has really stepped up his game recently.
I mean, he was really funny in Trainwreck, so that doesn't surprise me.
I thought he's been great on like a couple Saturday Night Live skits too. They did like a parody of the Karate Kid where John Cena is playing the bad guy Johnny. He goes, "What the butt?" and then like kicks Danielson through 3 walls. And he kicks the shorts off him too. Anyway, it's great. Watch it if you haven't seen it.
No, definitely have to do that. But guys, thanks again for tuning in. We're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. We've been on for almost an hour and a half now.
I know.
Guys covering wide receiver studies and doing our little bit of rants and things, but it's been a fun Sunday. So thanks for tuning in. If you haven't hit subscribe, please do for our YouTube. Really appreciate it. And if you want to follow Tate, he is at dtater4 on all forms of social media. I am at Samantha R. Holt on Twitter and at Sam_awesome on Instagram. So please guys tune in, follow, subscribe. Appreciate all of you guys so much for sticking around, and have a wonderful rest of your Sunday.
Appreciate y'all. Have a good one.